Alright guys, so you guys already know what this video is by the title. All I'm asking you guys to do is to drop a like, comment, and most importantly guys, subscribe. We're literally so close to 500 subscribers. We're gonna get straight into this video because this is gonna be a long card. An extra fight, but it feels like it's 20 fights. Look, first fight is going to be Jafel Fiallo versus Daniel Brazais. Not Brazais, Beres. Almost got it there. But anyways, I'm gonna jump straight into this fight and say that this fight is gonna be interesting. Daniel Beres is definitely, you know, the better striker. He has a good jab and he does have a lot of power, so that's gonna be an issue I feel like for Jafel. He does also have good forward pressure, but he's just not as, you know, he just doesn't have the same kind of volume that Daniel Beres has. And the difference is, I think in this matchup is going to be a power difference. Jafel can scramble, but you know, in Daniel's last 4 fights, even though it was on a regional scene, he really did not go for any takedowns. He pretty much was finishing the fights pretty quickly. His last fight was, you know, a Dana White Contender Series fight in terms of Daniel Beres. He did have a Dana White Contender Series fight against Carlos Hernandez, and he did lose by split decision. And in that fight, he had about 5 takedowns, and you know, it was a completely different fight. But he did defend takedowns, so that was good to see. But I don't see Jafel trying to shoot too many takedowns, even though his, you know, forward pressure is going to be there. So I can see Daniel Beres winning the fight, even possibly getting a finish. Man, his power has been on another level recently, and I can see him definitely getting the finish. All right, so the next fight we got is Bruna Brazil versus Shauna Banan. Shauna Banan is making her UFC debut. She's 5-0, going up against Bruna Brazil, that's 8-3. Bruna Brazil is coming off of that loss to Denise Gomes, and obviously we know that Denise Gomes clearly has a lot of power now. We've seen her recent fight, and if you guys have not watched Shauna Banan, she's actually a good fighter. She's really good on the ground, has good top control, is a black belt on the ground actually, and she actually is a kickboxing world champion. So she has some really nice, precise striking on her feet. And this fight for me is pretty much simple to the standpoint of, the biggest issue with this fight for me is that Bruna Brazil, she just tends to have her chin in the air a lot more often than not, and a little bit of pressure can force her to try to like set up like a higher reel, like a highlight reel finish, kind of like how she had on the Dana White's Contender Series. She kind of was searching for that in her last fight, and her chin is just in the air way too often. Even when she's exiting the pocket, like she just has her chin in the air. And with the precise striking of Shauna Banan, her being a good kickboxer, she has that good top control on the ground. I can just see her, you know, having more ways to win the fight. I don't really think that Brazil can do too much to win the fight. Now, this is a women's fight. It is a UFC debut. UFC debuts have not been going too great for the women, but based off of the fighters' skill sets, I'm gonna have to go with Shauna Banan to win this fight. Even possibly by finish. Even though she's not much of a finisher, I'm gonna say she can possibly win this fight by finish. Next fight up, we got Yanal Ashmos versus Chris Duncan. Now this fight is gonna be either, I think it could be mostly in favor of Yanal, or it could kind of be like a slow, maybe possibly boring fight. I don't think it's gonna be boring that much, but I feel like it's either or. And the reason I'm gonna go with Yanal Ashmos to win this fight is because he's actually a very patient striker on the feet. Doesn't really get hit too often. He does know how to defend the takedown really well, and he can only, he can get takedowns of his, on his own, of himself. He can get him on the cage. He can kind of shoot out in open double legs, not that great, more like, more so on the cage, but he is powerful, and I think that's going to play a big part in this match. Chris Duncan is also, he can press forward and strike, he can get into a brawl, but he is there to be hit, and he does, rely on his wrestling a little bit, because like his fight from Dana White Contender Series was a slugfest, and we just haven't seen Yanal in that kind of a fight. Even when he's had to go 3 rounds, he's been shown that he can defend the strikes really well. He's very patient, a good counter striker. He's gonna have the shorter reach, so and that's usually the case for Yanal, but he does understand how to use it well. For counter striking, he can defend takedowns really well, and even reverse the position. So I think even if Chris Duncan tries to force takedowns, Yanal will be able to reverse the positions because of just how strong he is. So I'm gonna go with Yanal Ashmos to win this fight. Next fight up we got is Penny Kianzad versus Ketlin Vieira. Now this is a woman's fight, and I feel like this fight is in a way kind of 50-50. But if I had to lean towards someone, I'm going to pick Penny Kianzad. And the reason why I'm going to pick her is because she just seems to have a little bit more dog in her than Ketlin Vieira does. Both ladies do like to kind of fight in the clinch a little bit, but Penny has a little bit more volume, and she's also good at, fighting in the clinch herself. Takedowns, I don't think it's going to be too big of a factor. Both have great takedown defense, and it would only really be Ketlin that would try to get takedowns. So the way I see this fight playing out, I see Penny being able to put a little bit more volume out there and get a little bit more control time on the cage. Like in both of their last fights, Penny finished out third round strong, and Ketlin finished out third round just kind of hanging on for dear life. So that to me is as simplistic as you have to try to keep it when it comes to women's MMA. But at the same time, I feel like it's always 50-50. But I'm just going to go lean with Penny Kiadz to have like a little bit more dog in her and get the W in this fight. All right, so the next fight we got is going to be Mick Parkin versus Jamal Pogues. Now this fight it's a heavyweight fight, guys. So either Jamal Pogues or Mick can come out, land one strike, and the fight could be over. But in the actual breakdown of this fight, Jamal Pogues does have good wrestling, but Mick actually does have the ability to be able to not, stay on his back even if he does get taken down. And he has the ability to kind of initiate some of his own clinches, takedowns, and he has power too. I think he's gonna have the power advantage in this matchup. And Jamal Pogues is not, he can be taken down. He can give up some control on his back there. So I can see Parkin getting a finish. But then again, Jamal Pogues is not a bad fighter. So him kind of getting the wrestling going could be a thing. But I don't know. I just feel like Parkin has shown that he can be very dangerous, obviously, with his boxing and striking. And then obviously if he can get on your back, he can actually submit you and choke you out. So I'm just gonna go with Parkin at the underdog spot to win this fight. All right, so the next fight we got is Mark Diakiese, Mark the delusional man Diakiese versus Joel Alvarez. Now here's how this fight is gonna go, guys. Mark Diakiese, he's known to be a dynamic striker, or was once upon a time known to be a dynamic striker, but things kind of got rocky in his career. He turned into a wrestler all of a sudden, and he had a few back-to-back wins against two guys where he was able to get takedowns. One of them he had like 11 takedowns, the other one he had 8. And it's kind of like what happened to Holly Holm, right? Holly Holm all of a sudden, I'm a wrestler now. Regardless of who I'm fighting, it just gets to a point with some fighters where they just want to win, so they'll just keep implementing the same game plan and thinking that they can just do it to whatever opponent they want to do it to. And I think that's going to be the downfall of Mark Diakiese in this fight. He's going up against Joel Alvarez, who is extremely dangerous on the ground, extremely dangerous striking, has a good win over a ranked guy in Thiago Moises, and his only 2 losses inside of the UFC have come to Damir Ismagulov and Arman Tsarukyan. This guy is proven to be very, very dangerous, and with the way how Mark Diakiese has been fighting recently, even in his last fight versus Michael Johnson, an extreme case of delusional. It was a showcase of delusion. I mean, the guy literally got outstruck in rounds 2 and 3. He kept shooting takedowns naked. He wasn't even setting up takedowns. He just kept shooting it out in the open. And I think that's going to be a really, really big issue for him in this fight against Joel Alvarez. He's so dangerous. He has about literally 16 wins by submission, 3 by knockout. All of his wins have come by finish. And with that kind of delusion that's going on with Mark Diakiese, where he's thinking he winning fights that he really did not win, showboating in fights where he's not doing anything. It's like the guy, something is wrong with him mentally, and I can tell that he's definitely broken as a fighter, because for him to go out there and put on that kind of performance he did last time versus Michael Johnson, it just goes to show where he's at. Even his whole game plan in that fight, the fact that he was shooting takedowns on Michael Johnson, who's such a good he has such good takedown defense, it was just very stupid to even begin with. So I can see Mark Diakiese trying to do that same kind of thing, where he might be kind of wait a little bit, be a little bit dynamic, kind of throw out random strikes. Joel Alvarez could hurt him on the feet, but then I could see him just trying to shoot and get takedowns, and that's gonna put him in a really, really bad spot against Joel Alvarez. So I'm gonna pick Joel Alvarez to get the win against Mr. Delusional. All right, so next up we got Johnny Parsons versus Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts. Now look, this fight is literally going to be almost, it feels like it should be a 50-50 fight, but then again, I just feel like Danny Roberts' durability is going to be the biggest problem, even though he has more experience inside of the UFC than Parsons does. I thought Parsons lost his last fight on the Dana White's Contender Series, but he is a good Muay Thai striker, can get into a little bit of a slugfest, but neither guy, I can't really see them taking each other down that often Danny Roberts may try to do that if he does get in trouble. If he can do that and turn it into like a wrestling match, which we haven't really seen him do, then maybe he has a chance to win this fight against Johnny Parsons. But I just feel like Johnny Parsons is going to just walk forward with that Muay Thai striking, turn it into a bit of a slugfest. And whenever the pressure is put on Danny Roberts, he just doesn't really look that great going backwards. So yeah, I'm just gonna go with Johnny Parsons to win this fight. But it is probably gonna be one of if not my lowest confident pick on the whole entire card. All right, so next up we got Davy Grant going up against Daniel Marcos, and now this fight is gonna be, I think this could possibly be, you know, a contender for fight of the night. I think that Davy Grant's gonna come out big hooks. He's gonna look to try to get a finish, and I just think that Daniel Marcos' striking is just a little bit too precise to the point where he will be able to catch Davy Grant with something significant and either get a finish or pretty much win the fight pretty handily, like a 30-27 or something like that. Davy Grant is dangerous, obviously, but Marcos has good takedown defense, high volume, you know, good accuracy, good striking defense. So, you know, against big actions, he's pretty good at defending against that and countering against that. So I don't think that Davy Grant is really going to be able to, you know, get that finish he might be looking for, or, you know, even get the takedowns on Marcos because of how good his takedown defense is. So for this fight, I'm going with Daniel Marcos. All right, so this next fight, Josh Coulibaly versus Lerone Murphy, is probably going to be definitely top 3 the toughest fights to pick on the card. And the only reason I'm gonna just lean towards Josh Coulibaly, and the only reason I'm gonna lean towards Josh Coulibaly, there's been a little bit of run-in that Lerone Murphy had with Nathaniel Wood. They had a little run-in, and you know, to me, it's like, it's fight week. Why are you even like trying to like beef about an old canceled fight because some guy talked about he wanted to put on a masterclass? So because this fight is so close, because both guys are so good, I just feel like Lerone Murphy's not going to be 100% focused on Coulibaly, and he really should be. And he's so easily taken down. He's a great striker, don't get me wrong, great fighter. Both guys are really undefeated, because the only loss that Coulibaly has is against Jalen Turner, and that was at 155. So he's undefeated at featherweight. So both of these guys are undefeated at featherweight. A lot of people thought that Lerone Murphy lost his last fight to Gabriel Santos. I thought he lost too. So you could make an argument that both guys have one loss. But, you know, one of them doesn't have a loss at featherweight and the other one does. So the fight is very tricky. Both are great strikers. None are going to be really looking to get too many takedowns. Like, Coulibaly is not somebody that blasts in double legs at all. He never really shoots takedowns at all, to be honest. And, you know, Lerone Murphy does kind of do that, but Coulibaly has good takedown defense. So this fight is kind of tough for me. I could almost kind of see Coulibaly kind of saying, you know what, I might as well try to shoot a takedown because Lerone Murphy is just so easy to take down. That could be the case. But both guys are great strikers. This fight's going to be close, and I think that Coulibaly is going to be able to just pull it out just so slightly. But I think that something makes me want to say Lerone Murphy's a better fighter, but because he just gets taken down so easily, it's like, So I don't really know. So I'm going to lean towards Coulibaly. This one's a tough pick, probably one of the, you know, lower confident picks. But yeah, it's going to be a tough pick, but I'm going to roll with Coulibaly. All right, so next up we got Jai Herbert versus Firas Ziam. Now this fight, it could either potentially be slightly boring, or I could just see Ziam just doing enough to win the fight. Jai Herbert is not really a bad fighter. You know, he's a technical fighter, but he kind of sits at range, low volume, and he can be easily taken down. And you're only as good as your last fight. And even though he got the point deduction from his last fight, maybe Jai Herbert possibly would have edged out that fight, maybe in a split decision. But we know that Ziam looked really, really great in his last fight. And that's due to the fact that now when he trains at 100%. So it's kind of like a shoot the box kind of thing where they're going 100%. And, you know, you always see those shoot the box guys live for finishes. And I think for Ziam, he's live for a finish, or he could even just pretty much just outpoint Jai Herbert. His grappling looked really, really good in terms of Ziam. And he's, you know, his striking is very precise, and he's also very defensive with his striking too. So I can see him definitely being able to do just more than enough to win the fight, and just do more than you know, Jai Herbert, because I just can't see Jai Herbert really being able to get anything really done against Ziam. So I'm gonna go with Ziam to win this fight. All right, y'all, so the next fight is gonna be Paul Craig versus Andre Muniz. Now this fight is gonna be interesting. Paul Craig is dropping down to middleweight though, and I think that is going to be a major factor in this fight. because he was already not that great of a striker anyways. And his chin is definitely up for question because he's always in a position where he can either be ground and pounded on the ground because he's just laying on his back the whole time with no real offense from back there other than a triangle, or he's just on his feet just getting outstruck. And in this fight, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think that him dropping down from 205 to 185, I think that's going to play a huge part in his chin not being able to hold up. He already looked great at 205. Like, he looked in shape at 205. So the fact that he's dropping down to 185, I'm really shocked about that. But in this fight, Paul Craig doesn't really have the ability to like shoot double blast leg, take, you know, double legs on Muniz. The only way that Muniz would decide to engage in that is if it's a like a situation where he wants to go for takedowns, and he did go for about 3 takedowns in his last fight versus Brendan Allen. But Brendan Allen is not as dangerous as Paul Craig is in the guard, so Muniz going for takedowns is probably going to be not a part of the game plan. I hope it's not a part of the game plan because we just see another low IQ moment, or another low fight IQ from another fighter. But yeah, I think that Muniz is going to stand on the feet. He's obviously clearly by far the better striker. He also does have power, and I think that he could actually get a knockout. I don't even think that the fight will even play out on the ground because Muniz is not going for takedowns, and Paul Craig is just not good enough to get a takedown on Muniz. Even though Muniz has like a lower takedown defense, Paul Craig really does not have the accuracy or any type of takedowns to get it. He's always trying to pull guard or getting in a situation where maybe, like for an example, in his last win versus Nikita Krylov, he got a takedown because Nikita Krylov came out with like a front kick and Paul Craig just grabbed it and got a takedown. So I don't see no way how Paul Craig can possibly win this fight. So I'm definitely going to go with Andre Muniz to get the W. All right, so next up we got Andre Touchy-Feely versus Nathaniel Future Wood. Now look, this fight is going to be maybe kind of interesting, but here's the thing, right? Nathaniel Wood is a former bantamweight, but he's showing that he can be really good at featherweight. Power is still kind of there. Very high volumes, going to be in your face, pressure, good leg kicks. He had some really nice trip takedowns in his last fight, and it was like very effortless, so he didn't have to put too much energy into it. And he's going up against Andre Fili, he's a veteran in this game. He's been in the UFC for a long time, has fought the best of the best, and he had a split decision victory over Bill Aggio, which is not that bad of a win. But I guess just in this fight, the way how I can see it going, breaking it down, watching film and all that, I just feel like Nathaniel Wood's going to have, he's obviously going to have to close the distance. He's going to have to get in the face of Andre Fili. And I think that the pressure of Nathaniel Wood is going to be the biggest reason as to why he can get this done. Andre Fili does have a reach advantage. He is taller than Nathaniel Wood, but I just think that once Wood gets in his face, he can hit him with some power. I don't think he's going to get him out of there, but I think that Wood will be able to put the pressure on Andre Fili, make him a bit uncomfortable, maybe get a few trip takedowns, just pretty much close the distance and turn it into like a dirty boxing fight. And Nathaniel was going to be way better, doing that versus kind of sitting at range with the longer fighter. So I got Nathaniel Wood winning this fight, but I do have respect for Andre Fili, so I wouldn't even be mad if he actually did get the win. But he's not a bad fighter. He's not terrible or anything like that, so we can't be too shocked if Fili does get a win. But for the pick, I am going to be going with Nathaniel Wood. All right, man. So, this is going to be an interesting co-main event. We got Julia Stefarenko versus Molly Meatball McCann. And honestly, guys, this is a fight where I would say this. First things first, do not put Molly McCann in your parlays. I'm just going to say that. That's all I'm going to say. And then second, let's just get into the breakdown, right? Molly McCann is obviously going to be a better striker in this fight, but she is able to be taken down. Like, she can easily be taken down. She has a terrible takedown defense of a 44%. And in this fight, Julia is going to shoot on Molly, and she probably will be able to get the takedown. Like, it's not going to be, something out of this world or unnecessary or just surprising if Stolarenko can get a takedown on Molly right away. She shoots her takedowns right away. She hunts for his submissions right away. And we've seen what happens to Molly McCann on the floor when she's going against somebody that's actually capable. Like, if we actually look at who Molly McCann has actually been fighting and the wins that she's actually got, they have not been over high level competition. They've been over terrible fighters. Luana Carolina, wasn't that bad, but everybody else that she's gotten wins over, they're not that great, especially over the past 3 years or so. They're not that great, or the times have changed, and it's a bit different. So this is gonna be a little bit of a but I'm gonna have to go with Julia Stefarenko. Like, I just can't trust Molly McCann And I'll be honest, I don't want to say biased, but she just gives off very, very, very cringe vibes, like super, super cringe. You know, people can say the same about me too. I get it 100%, but I'm just being honest. Like, I'm not trying to hate on her. You know, she's in the UFC. She's had a good career. You know, she's had some exciting moments, but I just really feel like she's going to be able to get taken down. Her takedown defense is not good enough, and she can be submitted. It's not impossible for her to be submitted. So I can see her getting submitted, and I can see Julia, you know, walking out of this fight with the win, man. So once again, do not put Molly McCann in your parlays. Do not do it. Please do not do it. All right, so last but not least, we got Tom Aspinall versus Marcin Tybura. Obviously, Tom Aspinall is coming off of that knee injury that he had last time at the O2 versus Curtis Blades. And he's going up against Marcin Tybura, who's, you know, a veteran in this game at this point, faced a lot of tough competition. And the way how this fight is going to play out, Tom Aspinall should be able to win. The only worry that I kind of have in the back of my head is, how is he doing off the knee injury? And two, he's never seen a third round in his entire career. And Marcin Tybura is one of those guys that can survive. He can survive the first round, and, you know, things could get weird. Obviously, yes, he's been knocked out before, and he has been taken down before. In his fight versus Alexander Romanov, he was taken down and controlled the entire first round. So Tom Aspinall can do that, but he needs to get the finish. If he's going to get that down, get him down on the ground like that, he needs to get the finish, because I feel like the longer the fight goes, it's actually going to favor Marcin Tybura. But Tom Aspinall has, you know, he's finished all of his wins in his career. All of his wins come by finish. 9 KOs, 3 submissions. So he should be able to get the job done here versus Marcin Tybura. But like I said, if the fight does start to go later, it's probably not gonna look too good for him. But that's gonna do it for the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this, you know, little breakdown. I watched the film of every single fight, and you know, I looked through the stats and everything. So this is coming off of a educated analysis here. I'm not just talking on my, you know what I'm saying. Want to make sure I give you guys the best analysis I possibly can. But if you guys enjoy videos like this, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video, man. Peace.